The sky began to darken ominously with thick, gray clouds around noon, and the wind started to pick up. It began to snow around too, light flurries at first, and then steadily increasing to thick, white particles that seemed to come down in sheets and blot out the world that lay beyond the lodge. We remembered what Ray had said about a possible blizzard. We wished we had a radio so we could listen to a weather forecast. By 5, there were mounds of snow outside 2 feet thick in places, and it showed no sign of relenting anytime soon. We watched it come down from the windows, the strengthening winds blowing the snow around in swirls and sheets and giving the appearance that the snow was coming down sideways. If we weren't stranded here before, we definitely were now. We ate our meals quietly, not making conversation, painfully aware of Mad's empty seat beside us. We listened to the wind shrieking outside the lodge, an eerie sound like tortured ghosts blowing so forcefully around it we could hear the structure groan. The lights flickered a couple of times and we wondered if it might knock out the electricity. Tyrese sat across from me. I watched him warily, suspiciously, whenever he wasn't looking. Was he somehow involved in whatever was going on? Was he maybe in cahoots with Ray and whoever it was that had done whatever they did to Mad? We decided to go ahead and continue filming. It probably sounds stupid, even crazy to you after what happened to Mad, but honestly, we didn't know what else to do. And really, there wasn't anything we could do. We were trapped here in a snowstorm with no way to call for help. And Ray was right. We had each signed a contract and were legally obligated to complete the film. I think probably we were all still in denial over how dire our situation was, and were downplaying the danger to ourselves. I think we convinced ourselves that this whole production was still on the level and that we were just being paranoid. Maybe Ray was even deliberately trying to scare us in order to improve the quality of our performances. Maybe Mad really was fine and was sitting happily, or as happily as someone like Mad could be, by a swimming pool outside a posh LA hotel while the rest of us were cooped up inside this place, miserable as can be. Regardless, we agreed to go ahead and finish the film. And it was one of the worst mistakes of our lives. As it began to get dark, we went over our scripts and rehearsed the action for that evening. After Mad gets killed, the rest of us, oblivious to her demise and the intruder in the lodge, continue partying in the lounge. Marie once again flirts with Tim, causing a confrontation between their characters and mine. I slap Tim and storm upstairs to my room for the night. Tim rejects the oversexed Marie's advances, and she goes off sulking before being consoled by Tyrese, who she hits on. The rest of them go to their rooms for the night. The screenplay neglects to explain exactly how our characters came into possession of our room keys, which I once again just shrugged off as poor quality screenwriting. But then Marie goes to Tyrese's room to seduce him, and they sneak down to the swimming pool and go skinny dipping before, you know. At which point they're ambushed by the killer, who drowns Tyrese in the pool before stabbing Marie to death. Unlike Mad, Marie, surprisingly given her modest nature, had agreed to shoot the scene commando. I guess because, being French, it wasn't that big of a deal to her. And also, she admitted to us because Ray had offered to pay her $10,000 extra to do it, which she knew her family could really use. Seth, who had grown really attached to Marie, was not happy about this at all, for a number of reasons. I think I could detect some real resentment and jealousy being directed by him towards Tyrese. And also because, according to Ray, once they finished shooting their death scenes, they would be leaving the lodge and we wouldn't see either of them until we returned to LA. Marie reassured Seth and told him they would have plenty of time to be together and enjoy their newfound wealth after the movie was finished. Besides, in the script, Seth's death was the next one after hers, so he wouldn't have to wait that long anyway. She kissed him and smiled at him sweetly, and he hugged her. We were in the lounge halfway through the scene we were shooting there. I had just slapped Tim, when the lights flickered, and then went out, plunging us into darkness. The music from the jukebox wound down to silence as it died. "What the heck?" Tyrese shouted, breaking character. "Ah, shoot," Seth groaned. "Power's out," Tim said unnecessarily. We turned on our phone flashlights. We had already discussed in advance what to do in the event the electricity failed while we were in the middle of shooting. Ray had told us the surveillance cameras were equipped to operate with night vision so they could capture the action in the dark. I glanced out the door of the lounge and looked at the nearest one in the lobby. I could see its red light was still blinking steadily. Either the cameras had their own battery packs or they ran on some backup power system Ray had installed. I nodded to Tim and we proceeded, getting back in character, going along and incorporating the blackout into the story. I stormed out of the lounge and ran upstairs. "Cassie, wait!" I heard Tim cry out after me. I went to my room and slammed the door angrily, knowing the cameras were following the action. I stopped recording, checked my footage, and once again texted it to the server address when prompted. I found some emergency candles in my bedside table drawer and lit a couple, placing them around the room. Then I laid down in bed, still dressed in my ski clothes, and waited. After a while, I heard murmuring and footsteps as my co-stars came upstairs, still in character, and went into their rooms. Minutes passed. I got up and crossed to the wall. Marie's room was next door to mine. I pressed my ear against the wall, listening. Faintly, I could hear her moving around, getting changed, preparing for her scene when her character goes to seduce Tyrese's character. I heard her open her door and leave. I went to the door. There was a spy hole at the top of it, and I peered through it. I could see Marie, dressed in a very revealing negligee, go to Tyrese's door, which was across from mine, and one door over. She knocked. Tyrese answered the door, still holding his phone camera. She posed provocatively in his doorway. His eyes went wide at the sight of her. I pressed my ear against the door. I could just barely hear them. "Bonjour," Marie said in a breathy voice. "Girl, you are looking fine." "You want to go for a swim?" she asked, exaggerating her French accent a bit more than it actually was. "I don't have a bathing suit." "Neither do I," she responded, and even though I couldn't see it, I knew from reading the screenplay that she winked at him. "I was thinking we could, how you say, skinny dip?" She giggled. "I like the way you think," Tyrese said, grinning, and left his room, following her down the hallway to the stairs, out of my line of sight. From there, they were supposed to go downstairs to the swimming pool in the back of the lodge for their little romp in the pool. The last footage for the night was to be of their deaths. Tomorrow night, we were supposed to resume with the killer having disposed of Marie and Tyrese, going upstairs and into Seth's room, recording himself attacking Seth, who manages to get out one loud scream before he dies, alerting Cassie and Tim, the last two left alive, to the danger. From there, filmed sequentially over the next few nights, Tim and Cassie were to investigate the scream, find Seth's body, and then engage in a suspenseful game of cat and mouse with the killer around the lodge before Cassie is captured and taken to the killer's lair, the large garage shed outside the lodge, to be tortured and murdered, before Tim arrives to the rescue. We had been instructed to remain in our rooms for the rest of the night and once again to ignore any screams we might hear from downstairs. But as the minutes passed and my sense of anxiety and uncertainty grew, I wasn't sure I'd be able to follow those instructions. And when the screams came not long after, screams that echoed up faintly from downstairs, I knew I wasn't going to be able to stand there and ignore them this time. We had been compliant the night before, and Matt had disappeared. And no matter what Ray had told us, I think deep down, we all understood she hadn't been taken to a nice hotel in Los Angeles. I grabbed a flashlight I had brought along from my pack and opened my door, running out into the hallway, knowing and not caring that I was being observed on the cameras and I would get in trouble for not following Ray's orders. I ran to the stairway and looked down, listening. I could hear them more clearly now. The screams continued, unmistakably Marie's, interspersed with shouts from Tyrese. I could just barely make out his voice. "Hey, get away from me! Get back! You guys help! This ain't an act! It ain't a movie! It's real! His voice was cut off. Marie continued to scream a little longer, and then she too fell silent. My heart felt like it was trying to climb up my throat. I raced down the hallway and pounded on Tim's door. He opened it immediately. "Cassie, what? We have to do something. We have to help." "What are you talking? Marie and Tyrese. They're being killed down there." Relax, they're just filming their scene. No, they're not, I screamed. Don't you understand? Something's going on here. We're not making a movie. It's all really happening. I was almost hysterical. He looked at me worried, seeing how terrified I was, and nodded. Okay, let's go check it out. Seth, drawn by the commotion, opened his door. Hey, what are you guys doing? You're not supposed to ruin the scene. It's not a scene, Seth, Tim told him, his face and voice grave. Cassie thinks something's really happening down there to Tyrese and Marie. We're gonna go help them. The color drained from Seth's face. I could tell he was concerned about Marie. I'm coming too. We went downstairs, me leading the way through the dark with my flashlight. Seth and Tim had their phone lights on. We went down the corridor next to the dining room, past the gift shop, and came to the door that led into the indoor swimming pool next to the showers and changing rooms. I pushed it open, and we went inside and looked around. It was dead silent. I aimed my flashlight around. The beam picked out Tyrese's clothes scattered all over the wooden floor, then Marie's negligee and bra. I shined the flashlight over the pool itself, and the beam centered on something. I felt horror clutch my chest in a steel grip. Oh my God, I said in a moan. Tyrese was floating face down in the water, motionless.